Okay, I think we're all set. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chad Landman, account executive here with eGroup. Appreciate everybody spending some time with us this morning or this afternoon or getting closer to this afternoon for our lunch, learn, and lounge. This is the second time we've done this. We did this once last year with great turnout and success, and appreciate everybody spending the time with us today. So, as I mentioned, my name is Chad Landman, account executive. I've been with eGroup a little over 10 years now. I manage our account relationships with a number of organizations here in South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Along with me today is Jen Rendon, account executive with Rubrik, as well as Brian Williams, SE with Rubrik. Jen, would you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Chad. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting us and partnering with us today. I'm the account executive for Rubrik, and I'm based out of the Raleigh area, but I cover the states of South Carolina and Tennessee. And then with me, I have also Brian Williams, who's our sales engineer side of the house.
Yep. Hello. Good morning, everyone. And like I said, my name is Brian Williams. I'm the sales engineer for Jen. I'm the other side of the coin for all technical related things.
Excellent. Well, Jen, I think you have a good outline of what we're going to cover today. You want to go ahead and get us started?
Yep, absolutely. So for today's agenda, I think we're going to pass it and have a conversation between all of us. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and pop those in the chat. We'll get to them afterwards. But let's run through some slides. Really, it's how do we protect your business from ransomware attacks with Rubrik, and then how do you leverage eGroup to see if you are ready for the cloud, and how do you utilize that wherever you are with your journey today. So to start this off, why would anyone pay ransom? Doesn't everyone have backups at this point? And that's the question that we get asked a lot. So why is backup system that protects against ransomware so critical? And the cost of dealing with an attack, including business downtime, lost orders, operational costs, halting critical services to a community or business, and more, is very, very large. The cost of an attack has grown from an average of $765K in 2020 to over 1.85 million in 2021. And we've seen that just go out of control with COVID. And this means that the average cost of recovering from ransomware attack is now on average about 10 times the size of the ransomware payment. And for local cities and county governments and businesses not having the right protection, it can be absolutely crippling. And this is where the cost of Rubrik really pays out over time, because Rubrik is always safe and always protected. Councils running small and medium-sized cities are often flushed with funds, or aren't flushed with funds, meaning IT security doesn't have the investment it requires. We see IT groups time and time again really try to squeeze the most out of their budgets, and that means that security holes are really left open. And with our population growing and thousands of small counties, cities, or businesses and schools are out there, and more in the US, it makes us perfect targets for attackers, and that's what we've seen over this last year as well. Also, currently, we also have recent North Carolina House of Representatives unanimously passed legislation that would prohibit state and local agencies from paying ransomware demands or communicating with criminal actors who attempt to encrypt government networks or steal data. And I think we're going to see this definitely on the public sector, but definitely going into the private sector as well. So why are organizations paying the ransom? And one of the reasons is because it takes too long to recover. Restores are clunky. It can take days. Forrester estimates that on average, it takes 7.3 days to recover. And many organizations, after 2 or 3 days of waiting, lose faith in the ability to recover and opt to pay the ransom. One story I heard was after 3 weeks of not being able to recover, a town in Florida paid over $460,000 in ransom. And secondly, it's often companies that have no backups or compromised backups that end up paying the ransom. So ransomware is starting to specifically target online backups, encrypting them and or deleting them. And resorting to offsite backups such as tapes means even longer, RTOs. We recently met with one of our customers who said, well, how long does it take you to recover from a tape backup? And they said over 30 days. So you can imagine the impact to the business that would have. Or companies are setting up isolated recovery, which can be a huge financial burden with management complexity. So think of a similar operation of the overhead of setting up a DR infrastructure, which is why the cloud has really been so critical and viable for companies to move to. And then lastly, we're seeing a lack of visibility, right? How do you know what was impacted and where? What's the blast radius? Manually sifting through millions of files and comparing each snapshot consumes a lot of time, and mass restores of an entire environment could mean high data loss. So no one should have to pay the ransom, and having that level of confidence to recover quickly and accurately from backups is definitely within reach. So our approach is to address these three challenges. First, we provide instant recovery. Imagine being able to recover from the last known good backup instantly. And this is a core capability that has really made Rubrik the leader in backup and recovery. One of the organizations that we were working with that used this specifically had Rubrik, and they got hit with ransomware, but they were able to bring their systems back up online within 24 hours and provide critical services back to the city. Secondly, we have native immutability. So having an immutable file system is something that more and more is being asked for from cybersecurity insurance, from your leaders, from the board, from city councils. They want to make sure that your backups can never be encrypted or deleted, and you are protected in the case of a ransomware attack. And finally, beyond fast recovery from bulletproof backups, we can automatically diagnose which applications have been changed, so you can quickly understand the scope of what has been affected. And this minimizes the risk of data loss from a mass restore. We want to be able to give you an idea of what the blast radius was of that impact. So how it works, right? First, we want you to have a very quick start. Get started in less than an hour. Rubrik can auto-discover your environments. And you're up and running, and as little as 15 to 30 minutes. We get asked a lot, what sets Rubrik apart from the recovery in the event of, the disaster of a malware attack. And having the ability with live mount, Rubrik delivers instant clones for recovery in seconds of your VMs, your SQL, your Oracle databases. And you simply select what you want to restore, where you want to restore it to, and all the heavy lifting is done by the Rubrik software. So we're automatically allocating all writes and hot reads to flash tier to optimize IO performance. And then on top of that, we talked a little bit about the immutable file system, but security is absolutely the bread and butter here, and you want to lock down everything that you can. So we're also delivering end-to-end encryption, the immutable file space. Data is encrypted in flight and at rest from source or connector to cluster, node to node within a node, cluster to other storage tiers like the cloud, right? On top of that, we had detect anomalous behavior using machine learning. So we leverage a deep neural network to perform file system and content behavior analysis to establish a normal baseline and flag anomalies. We look at properties like system change rates, abnormal system sizes, and even entropy changes in specific files to detect encryption. No impact to production or any other layer, and another layer of defense. And then once you have detected an attack, we start comparing that post-attack snapshot with snapshots immediately before to see what was added, deleted, or modified. We expose our analysis in the UI so you can easily see exactly what is the scope of the damage, what you need to recover, and where are they located at the file granularity. So we never want you to take a dumb backup. We understand that if you're indexing your backup data, it's important to you. And we're indexing that backup data and creating really rich analytical metadata, which we're then harnessing in our SaaS platform called Polaris. And it provides your business with value-driven analytics and data intelligence services to you, like monitoring or reporting or capacity planning. We want you to have a one view one pane of glass management with GPS, and that comes out of the box. And then we want you to also be able to have a really quick way to look at the health of your backups with a product called Radar. And Radar allows you to see that blast radius. It's what's going to give you the ability to see if any files have been changed, modified, or deleted within your backup with a really nice reporting feature. It's also color coded. We also give you the ability to back up O365. Microsoft will tell you that you need a third-party company to back that up. So we give you that ability within the product line as well. And then lastly, we also want to give you the ability to recognize whether or not you have any private or sensitive information that may be living in your backup. So one of the things that we've seen come out with threat actors is that they were going to target or steal that backup data, and then they basically extort you for it, right? And release that information out into the public. And if you have any sensitive information in there, that could be really devastating to your business. And we've even seen, reports of businesses having to shut their doors because of that, crippling attack. Brian, I would ask you just to touch a little bit here and dig in deeper with our security framework, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So, security is in Rubrik's DNA, and it's evident by the framework that we operate within. It all really starts with their immutable file system. So once we take these backups, they can never be changed, deleted, or anything of that nature. Along with that, we're providing the end-to-end encryption, as Jen had mentioned. So that data, once we grab it from the source, it's going to be encrypted in flight. And of course, once it lands, it's going to be encrypted at rest. We're also providing the ability to integrate multi-factor authentication or time-based one-time passwords, so we can integrate into RSA Secure ID, Duo, or anything that's SAML 2.0 compliant. We can use the time-based one-time passwords for any local or AD user. This is a way to secure every login with your Android or iOS device. So basically, we're going to protect you versus compromised credentials. You have the ability to set up roles-based access control and logical multi-tenancy to provide the granularity access between maybe specific users or entire organizations within your campus. Retention lock and legal hold, this is something I think is a key differentiator. So retention lock means you cannot expire the backups. This is going to prevent the bad actors or rogue admins from doing anything in your environment. Additionally, we're going to disallow the shortening or deletion of the archive replication data. This prohibits the reassignment of objects. It disables the node reset. It's a really big way to protect you against any kind of rogue admin that may be in your environment. So there are risks involved sometimes with letting people go, or perhaps someone is compromised due to whatever reason. They could trash things on the way out. Well, retention lock prevents that. Audit and compliance reporting, we have the ability to integrate with your existing SIMSOC tools. So now we can pull that data with those existing SIMSOC tools and understand what's happening within your backup environment. And finally, the zero trust cluster design. So this is important because every time we are speaking internally to node or externally to data sources, all of this is certificate authenticated. And so along with certificate authentication, this also provides a logical air gapping, which is becoming more and more relevant and more necessary as table stakes in a secure environment.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk about is Rubrik is done to really modernize this approach and protect you, within your backup so that you are really protected against these ransomware attacks. And we modernize it across backups, recovery, archive, DR, and cloud automation. We see IT teams being asked to do more with the same complex processes all of the time. So the success of Rubrik is really going to be solving for three things, and that's simplicity at scale, right? Let's give operational time back to these IT teams. Security, ransomware is targeting those teams and they're already overworked. So let's give you a foolproof solution that protects you and can get you back online quickly. And on top of that, we also want to provide you with cloud automation, providing IT teams an easy way to send data offsite and easily manage it, be able to pull file back recovery level from the cloud, pull down pieces, if you will, a chip out of that iceberg down, so you're not having to incur the cost of pulling that full down. but really give you a way to manage your data across your environment, no matter where it lives. And with that, I will pass it over to eGroup, but we always say don't back up, go forward.
Thanks a lot, Jen. I think you said it well there as far as, the data management, right? Rubrik's not just a backup solution. And you touched a lot around ransomware and security. We've had a number of customers reach out, kind of thanking Rubrik and for their, I guess, guidance and instant restore capabilities, kind of saving them when, global auto manufacturer was impacted last year. And with Rubrik installed, they were one of the, Rubrik was not installed globally, but it was through a number of different manufacturing sites throughout the Southeast, and they were able to instantly recover. And it was tremendous feedback to avoid some of the downtime that other sites within the same organization were impacted by. So a number of real use cases and examples out there. I was just kind of clicking around while you were, talking about the ransomware, some of the numbers out there, and I saw that in 2020 the FBI logged nearly 2,500 ransomware complaints that resulted in north of $30 million in ransom, I guess, either paid or requested. Right, there's probably even more than that these days, but because with the ramp in the malicious attacks, especially during COVID. Anyways, what I wanted to talk about here to kind of, as we get towards the end of the presentation, is basically a call to action. Our offering as a Microsoft, we're a 6x Gold Microsoft partner, a national Microsoft partner. So we have the ability to augment and leverage programs that Microsoft has to fund our professional services to deliver a essentially funded engagement, a white glove kind of project delivery that we call our cloud backup assessment. If we could go to the next slide. Let's see here, Carly. I'm not sure if you're driving for me or not. There we go. Yeah, so I want to talk about the actual methodology. It's not just your typical pre-sales data collection and sizing analysis to show what Rubrik would look like replicating to Azure. We go through a detailed current state baseline to understand your organization's backup and data management infrastructure, what the operational processes look like and the service level requirements. We get into a system specification where we'll outline the specific configuration of components that would be deployed on premises, as well as what would be replicated to Azure for long-term retention and archive, and then a detailed financial analysis, basically showing you all of the different components and what a total cost of ownership would look like over 5 years. Also included is an Azure governance and design session. So if you're not incredibly familiar, if you're new to Azure and have an Azure tenant, we'll go through the subscription guidance, the network design, security, the identity management and role-based access controls, and a number of other policies, networking and target storage guidance as well. And then talking about the current state baseline in a little bit more detail. If you could get towards there, yes, we'll go through the infrastructure, policies, the recovery, the management. Again, it's a very thorough and basically treated as a funded engagement. Typically, we are able to get funding from Microsoft to cover our professional services, and we'll work with the organization on that application to do so. And then lastly here, I just want to show you what a current, sample baseline diagram would look like. This is a deliverable that you would receive specific to your organization's current environment. And then diving into the system specification step, you'll see what a proposed architecture would look like. Rubrik with cloud out to Microsoft Azure and a comprehensive financial analysis to follow. I believe I have an example or a sample there to show as well. some of the components that are cost model considerations, right? You'll have your backup services, your Azure connectivity, your backup storage, and other components that are included with replication and communications. And then you can see a sample output 5 years of cost of ownership that you would receive by signing up for one of the e-group without backup assessments. I think the last slide there is the actual sample outline. I kind of removed the numbers from our most recent, but you'll see there's a detailed primary as well as DR site, and then we also have breakdowns on the individual Azure components that are often a little harder to forecast over 5 years. But we have the expertise not only with Rubrik as a premier partner, a partner that we have enjoyed working with since 2015, and Microsoft, where we are I mentioned a gold partner and national reseller, and look forward to the opportunity to working with your organization on a cloud backup assessment. So please contact us if you're interested. We'll follow up with more information. And Jen, Brian, anything else on your side? I think we're right towards the 11:30 time.
I think so as well. I wanted to say thank you everyone for joining us today, but did we have any questions that we could be answering for anyone? Kind of open up the floor.
I did see one question pop up earlier. This one's probably better for you, Brian, but when an organization, I guess, what are some use cases out there? Or I guess the question was, what customers have you seen impacted by ransomware that actually have Rubrik deployed? Do you have any examples?
Yeah, actually I do. The big one I think is it's been in the news with City of Durham. They were impacted by ransomware, and fortunately they had Rubrik in their environment. Interestingly enough, I was actually boots on the ground for that event. I got a call late one Friday night saying they were seeing a malware infection every second show up from their SIMSOC. So that was a pretty scary time, and it was a test to see exactly how good Rubrik was, and I'm proud to say that Rubrik passed with flying colors. We were able to recover critical services in less than 24 hours, and then I think we tiered it off from there. The way we were able to do that is we were able to leverage the live mounting features of Rubrik. So obviously you don't want to put things back in a restoration into a dirty environment. So we started with a scorched earth approach. They basically started with a clean slate, and they were using live mount to stage those virtual machine recoveries in a gray environment. These were not connected to the network, so there's no risk of reinfection. Once we were able to apply any kind of remediation for that malware against those in a live mounted situation, we could then use storage vMotion, because they're using VMware, to move it into the clean white space network. So very, very easy to recover from malware and ransomware when there is such a stigma around it. Now, have they been not using Rubrik, as maybe Durham County, for instance, was not? They took much longer to recover, and it was really sad to see, because there's a lot of critical services that need to be delivered to a city. Public safety is huge. So,
thank you, Brian. Carly, I think that's all we have today, and certainly appreciate everyone's time. Like I mentioned, we'll follow up accordingly, and happy to set a focused conversation with your organization around the cloud data protection analysis, and then hopefully discuss how Rubrik might help your organization going forward.